Alright, this video is on serrated knives and why I don't like what I have here. And I have bought serrated knives before. Actually, I bought one. I own a couple others, but first knife that I ever bought that was serrated, and actually one of the first ones I bought as an adult, was this Spyderco Delica, and it's an older model. I probably bought this knife back in, I don't know, 94, 95, somewhere in there. And didn't take me long to decide that I really didn't like serrations. Now, not saying that all serrations are bad. I do believe that a serrated bread knife is good. When you make a loaf of crusty bread, a serrated knife does a great job of slicing that bread without crushing it. But other than that, like I say, I'm not a big fan of serrations. Unless you're really doing delicate, caping or something, most of the work you end up doing with a knife a lot of times is, say, the back 2/3 of the knife a lot of times, because you can get more pressure when you cut. And the serrated knife cuts, but you can actually see where the teeth bit in, where that's really not all that clean. Several different serrated knives I have here. And you really can't tell, but really the serrations and even these knives have never really been used, just because they're serrated, and got no use really for a serrated knife. Now, I carry a Leatherman Charge TI with me every day, and I do use the serrated knife on it. I use it for cutting boxes, cardboard and the like. The reason I do that is because that keeps me from really dulling out the good blade as quick. It saves it for better task. Now, saying that, normally the good blade I don't really use, because I've always got a pocket knife of some sort on me. Now, for example, this is a Masters of Defense. This is pre-Blackhawk Point Man, named after Jim Patches. What was his last name? Watson. Chief Patches Watson. Now, when he designed this knife, it's actually over 2/3 of the knife of his design is serrated, with just a little bit, like the last third of the tip, not being serrated. His thing was, in Vietnam, he didn't have to worry about having to sharpen a knife. He figured if it was serrated, it would always cut. That's true, it cuts, but in my opinion, it rips and it saws more than it cuts. There's a lot of negatives to a serrated knife. One, you have to have special equipment really to sharpen them. You can use stones from like a Spyderco sharp maker. Go to a knife store, and there's all kinds of different products out there made just for serrated knives. But you can take a regular knife and you can use a stone. You can use sandpaper, strops. I mean, whatever you've got. It's a whole lot easier to sharpen this. You can be out, in the bush and need to sharpen your knife, and you can pick up, like I say, a rock, and it might not be pretty, but you can sharpen it. You can't really do that as easily with serrations. So you got to have more specialty equipment to maintain the edge. and then the edge you get, in my opinion, never cuts as clean and cuts as well as a regular sharp knife. I can take a regular sharp knife, piece of leather here, and I'm going to use the back 2/3 of the blade because that's where the serrations are. I'm going to take it, and with minimal pressure, I can clean cut this leather, and that's what, 1/4 inch leather, and it's probably 1/8 of an inch wide. Now, in turn, I'll pick up this Benchmade here. And I don't know if you can hear the difference. But that's the serrations, and I'm having to put a lot of pressure and really bite into that. Now let's use the tip here that's not serrated. Now, see how clean that cuts with the non-serration? Again, the serration. Can't tell me that those serrations cut as well as this. And this is a regular V grind. On this Blade Tech here, it's actually got a convex grind. But with the Blade Tech, I mean, it just slices right through the leather. And here's the Trident. Now this Trident, I've actually not carried it, and I couldn't tell you how long I've carried it. I don't like the clip, never have liked the clip on it, but it cuts the leather cleanly. But if this was 3/4 serrated, like the original that Chief Watson designed, I'm sure it wouldn't slice the leather as well. So again, I'm not a big fan of serrations. I don't buy them. I bought this one. These were given to me. With most multi-tools, it's going to have a serrated edge, which is fine. It's a multi-tool. I don't consider that a primary knife. I consider that, again, a tool. Another little test I was going to show you. This is the packing peanut. And pick up this Blade Tech, and I'm going to slice. I'm going to start at the back. I'm going to slice through the packing peanut. I don't know if you can see, but it sliced cleanly through that packing peanut. Oops. It sliced clean through the packing peanut, and it did not crush it. Kind of like trying to slice a tomato. A sharp knife is going to slice a tomato. A dull knife, you're going to kind of have to saw and crush through it. Now I'm going to pick up this other Benchmade here, and then just with the back part of the blade serrations, just like I did with the Blade Tech. You hear it sawing, ripping through. Now it cut it, and it didn't really crush it, but it's ragged. The cut's not clean, and I want you to listen again. And then how much louder that is as that kind of rips through the packing tape. The packing peanut. If a knife can slice a packing peanut without crushing it, you've got in my opinion, a sharp knife. I think that's a good way to tell if a knife is sharp, is with the packing peanut. Piece of paper. Another Benchmade here. I do like Benchmade knives. I really like the axis mechanism. All right. So both of those knives are comparably sharp. I think maybe the Blade Tech might be a little sharper, but I'm going to try that, and I'm going to start with the serrated side. Hear it? How that it ripped the top. Try that again. It rips the top until it gets to the regular traditional V grind before it really starts to slice. It rips. Now, just so you know, the front portion of these knives are sharp. You know, I'm not sitting there ripping through. You know, but they're sharp. But I start with the serrations, and it rips through the knife. I'm not sure how sharp this little Spyderco is. It's been years since I've carried it. Let's see the front. Yep. The front part is relatively sharp. Let's start with the back. See the serrations rip through before it gets to the clean cutting edge. So when you're cutting anything with a serrated knife, it's not clean cutting. It's grabbing and it's ripping. Some people don't like to sharpen a knife. They grab a serrated knife. Also, the serrated knife's got a cool factor to it. You look at it and go, wow, yeah, that's a cool looking knife. Military side of the house, a lot of knives that are sold to the military, until you know better, they'll have serrations on them. Because you go into a store and you'll look at these knives, you look at all these lined up side by side. Of course, the ones with a black finish, they appeal to the military, which I actually prefer a non-coated blade. It's easier for me to maintain and keep clean, and once you start banging and scratching up with the coating, they start looking ugly, but that's something else. But when you look at all these knives, which ones scream military? And you've got these two, and these two are actually got in national stock numbers in the system, but they scream military. But to me, this knife, this Blade Tech Professional Hunter, will outperform and be a better knife to carry than these two any day of the week. Again, that's strictly my opinion. But serrated knives, and I think I've shown you with the paper, with the leather, with the packing peanuts, a serrated knife will not cut as well. And these weren't what I would call like hard tests. I'm not cutting wood. I mean, I'm doing things. This is flesh. It's tan flesh, so it's hard flesh. But this is something that you might come across, you know, just about any situation. From food prep, you know, if you can slice this clean, you can cut a tomato clean. Slicing paper clean. I mean, serrated knives, in my opinion, just aren't worth the headache it is to sharpen them. Like I said again, you have to have special equipment really to sharpen them, to sharpen them effectively. They don't cut as clean, and they're not as effective of a knife. Alright, that's my rant on serrated knives and why I particularly don't like them. You know, some people love them. I think people that love them, they love them more for the cool factor, and also people that, I won't say that they can't sharpen a knife, they choose not to sharpen a knife. And with a serrated knife, you know, long after it's really not sharp anymore, and you know, a serrated knife, you can maintain and keep it sharp, it just doesn't cut as well. But long after it's not sharp anymore, you still can saw with it. I mean, technically that's what you're doing. It still will cut, just not as effectively. It's going to be a nice jagged, ragged cut, but it's going to cut. So again, I don't like serrated knives. You'll never be able to convince me otherwise that that's the way to go, other than like a bread knife, cutting in a nice crusty loaf of bread. But that's few and far between. Thank you. Have a good one.